Hey, John.
Hello. How are you?
How are you? I'm good. So you look like an icon.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to see my video in Skype because I'm streaming it to YouTube.
Okay. Cool. You can hear me just fine, though?
Yep, so far so good.
Cool. I'm going to turn you down because you're really loud.
All
Let's
right.
see how I do that. There we go. Okay, perfect. I'm good.
Getting the video set up now.
I haven't gotten any less nervous since the last time.
That's surprising. I would imagine you're doing more speaking than you did before.
Yeah, actually a lot, but it doesn't. It's how it's supposed to get easier.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any indication that it's getting any easier. And that's just personality thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you okay speaking in public? Are you pretty good at that?
It still makes me nervous.
Yeah. And they say, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. But it doesn't.
Hey, Hal.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi,
Hal. Hi.
June, how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And I'm going to turn my phone to stun. Here we go. Good.
I am ready. I'm having some internet connectivity issues. So let me hang up for a minute, Jonathan.
Okay.
This is my phone, as you.
Yeah, but your video looks really good on that phone. Which one is it?
Nexus 6.
I have never seen Skype look that good from a phone before.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
it was all me.
I have the world's worst phone. I just hate the thing.
You have?
Yeah, I have a Galaxy S5, and this is probably my last Galaxy. It's the operating system, I think, is faulty, and the apps are all unresponsive. So you press something to click it, nothing happens. You press again, you shake it,
It's weird.
You reset it. I'm continually restarting the thing. So.
That is not good.
And it's too big. No. My husband has this gorgeous Windows phone. And I have phone envy. So.
I have the Nexus 6, and it is a large phone. It's a little bit bigger than the S5.
Yeah. Oh, so is it a phablet?
I hate that term, but yeah, it is that category for sure.
Yeah. At some point, somebody's going to hold up an iPad to their ear and start talking.
Yes. Well, I don't.
But
like,
I want an icon. Is that the Nokia or Lumia?
Yeah, Lumia.
I'm rebooting and all that good stuff. I was having some issues earlier today. All right, I'm going to hang up because I need 2 hands now.
Okay. You want to ping me when you're ready?
Yes, I will do that.
Cool.
There's the hang up button. There it is. Bye.
So, John, are you going to ask me for a song?
No, because we're doing our streaming through YouTube, and I think if we stream regular songs, we will get taken down.
Gotcha.
At least that's my assumption. And I was trying to get
because I had an obscure one, so I didn't want you to have to struggle to go looking for it. I screwed up the song the last time I did this podcast. I wasn't prepared. So I did, and I felt so badly about it. It was like, oh my God, what a stupid song to pick. It was, yeah.
I need to take another look at Azure live streaming. The last time I looked at it, it wouldn't support the codec that my broadcaster software uses, but that was a few months ago, so I need to check again.
Yeah, that stuff is being... they do releases every 3 weeks.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was... Well, what it means is that, you never breathe.
Yeah, I'll bet.
It was really hard. Yeah, there were so many nights. I haven't... I'm really old, right? And I forgot how to do all-nighters. The Azure team does all-nighters.
Wow.
Yeah. And Sapien is like, oh, God, no, we would never do that.
You're kidding,
this is
right?
the best job I don't know if I could go back to a big company after this. It's been a whole new world.
Yeah, I thought I was going to go to a smaller company and ended up going to a bigger company.
So where are you now?
The Home Depot.
Oh, that's very big. Wow.
400,000 employees. 16
My gosh.
domains.
So, wow. So do they have a single IT department or do they have multiple distributed?
They have a single IT department. We're all under the same umbrella, but, there's lots of divisions.
Is it fun? Are you happy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm having a blast.
Oh.
I've got some really sharp
good.
people on my team, and PowerShell is widely used there, which is vastly different than the place I was before. And I'm probably not the most skilled person with PowerShell on my team, which has never happened.
That's way cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
We got some really sharp guys on my team.
And you're headquartered in the Atlanta area somewhere?
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Cool.
We've got data
so
center
I'm spending
here and one in
this
Austin.
week. Yeah. Do we need to start for real? It's
No.
6:28.
Well, no, we're waiting on Hal.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm spending the winter in California this year, and I probably, if I can avoid it, it's amazing. And if I can avoid it, I probably won't do another Utah winter. It's just too cold for me. But I might actually be in Georgia next winter. Georgia or North Carolina.
That's cool.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can be anywhere. They don't care.
Right.
So it's just wherever I can find an Airbnb that I can afford for a couple of months. The one here is so expensive. I mean, this is, this makes Seattle look like a bargain. It's really.
But, yeah. California, some places I know, they're just crazy expensive.
Yeah. On the flip side, it was 70 degrees today, and all the restaurants are great.
Nice.
So it's fun.
Are they getting a lot of snow? I know that the East Coast is Boston has gotten 70 inches of snow in the last 2 weeks. Is Utah getting feet of snow this time of year?
No, no, we're not. We're in a different weather system.
Oh, okay.
So we got a little bit of snow really early, like Thanksgiving, which is almost. I'm really southern Utah. You could almost think of where I live as northern Arizona.
Oh, okay. So it's probably is it dry?
Right. Dry, very desert, very arid, so fewer than 12 inches of rain per year.
Oh, that's right. I've seen pictures that you've posted of amazing desert scenes and
and you haven't shown up. I every time the doorbell rings, where's Jonathan?
I don't think I could make it to your house. Aren't you an hour and a half from the nearest grocery store?
Yeah, but, you could pick up groceries on the way. It's totally worth it.
What are you guys talking about?
How far do you
I
live
invited him to
out
come
in the
and
middle
see
of nowhere?
Yeah, I'd heard stories. I mean, I know that you're still in Utah, I guess, right?
Well, right now I'm in beautiful downtown Napa, California, but I still live in Utah.
She's wintering in California this year.
Yeah, oh my God, I'm wintering. Yeah.
Oh, not just California, in Sonoma, in Napa, wine country.
I live in. Yeah, I live in the little Airbnb that I'm renting is in Glen Ellen, which is like very shishy. So it's very pretty. But honestly, it's so expensive here. I don't think I'll ever be able to do this again. It's so much money. But,
So how long are you staying there?
I've been here since, let's see, I was here in December for a couple of weeks, and then I returned in January, and I'll be here until the beginning of March. And then I'm going like everywhere. So I'm going home, right? Unpack my stuff. But we've got PowerShell Summit in April, and we've got Ignite in May. And I'm going to go out to Ohio, northern Ohio, to teach a class in May, and then I'll be out in New Jersey teaching, I think, in August, and that schedule will fill in a little bit, so there might be a couple more things to do. So,
cool.
On the road.
Sounds exciting. A road show with June.
Isn't that weird? And like, this is like, I have the wrong personality for this job. Totally. I get really scared whenever I have to talk in public. I'm just, this makes me crazy.
Well, I remember, where were we? I think we were at a tech ed probably, like 5 or 6 years ago or something. And I was just going to get you saying your name and just kind of a blurb, like, hi, this is June Blender, and you're listening to PowerScripting Podcast. And you got nervous doing that. You weren't even talking to anybody.
Yeah. I just freak out. So I had to teach. I taught a class in North Carolina in October, and I know this sounds bizarre, but I was like I disassociated, right? So there I was up there speaking, but I remember very little of what happened. And on about the 4th day of the class, when things were kind of winding down, we were wrapping up, I asked the organizer where the ladies' bathroom was. And I realized that it was 4 days, and I hadn't used the bathroom.
Oh, my gosh.
During the day, Yeah, I hadn't eaten anything. I don't think I slept. So
wow.
I just get totally freaked out. But, it's what I do.
Well, let's start over slightly, just a little bit.
Okay.
And say welcome, June Blender, to the PowerScripting Podcast back again. Thank you for joining us.
You do that, not me, right?
Well, no, I just did, and then you're supposed to say, "Oh, hi," thanks for having me,
hi,
or whatever.
Hi, John.
Hello.
You can say whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And then the next part, we say something like, "Hi, June. How's it been going since the last time we had you on? It's been a while."
It has been a while, yes, and things are going really well.
And then I say, "You were with Microsoft the last time you were on."
And then I say, "Oh, yes, I was."
So what's happened since then? Bring us up to date.
So let's see. Yeah, thanks. Hi, everybody. So let's see. I left Microsoft effective September 15th, 2014, and I joined Sapien Technologies here in beautiful downtown Napa, California, on October 1st. And I'm no longer a programming writer or officially a writer of any kind. I'm a technology evangelist for Sapien. Oh,
I like it. I like the sound of that for you.
Yeah,
so what is,
my family thought it was a religious thing. But
you are in Utah. You do live in Utah.
Yeah, that's true, but yeah. So basically it means that I get to do all of the really wonderful parts of every job that I've had, just all put together. So I get to help people. I get to talk to people. I write blog posts. I investigate problems. I play liaison between the PowerShell community and the development team here at Sapien. But it's a very small company, so I've got my fingers in the code, and I drive people crazy here with specifications, and feature requests and bug reports and but it means that I get to go and visit people. I get to go to all sorts of user group meetings and both talk and listen. I get to teach. I get to go to conferences. I get to seek people out and figure out what they're doing with PowerShell and what they're doing with scripting.
And you work with Batman.
All the fun parts. What is this?
And you work with Batman.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's a bonus.
Da 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 da.
So, how was there much of a culture shock going from a company of 60 million or whatever Microsoft had to a company of wherever Sapien is, which is what, closer to 10, if that?
Yes, it is.
5?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's closer to 10. Let's see. It was amazing. So I spent 17 years at Microsoft. And before that, I worked for the phone company, US West. So I'd never been in a small shop. So my first encounters were something like, where do I find the form for, how do I, where do I go and register a request? What is my budget for this? There's none of that.
There's no layers. It's just the team.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's gotta be
it's fabulous. And they don't waste any time with all the things that I believe are truly required in a very large company. They don't need to do that. Performance reviews are very quick and easy. My 3-month review, I haven't done an annual review yet, but my 3-month review went something like, I think it's time for my 3-month review. And Ferdinand looks at his watch. He goes, has it been 3 months? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, you're doing great. And I was like, that was a 3-month review. Different than Microsoft with days of writing, your Connect form and meeting with people, and then it goes up the management chain and you wait.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know how the Microsoft one worked. I've been in large companies and have done plenty of different styles of yearly reviews and such, but that one sounds like a little more than what I'm even used to.
And it changed, I guess, kind of while I was leaving because they stopped doing stack rank, and I'm a big fan of that change.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about that. Well, so when you were at Microsoft, for people that don't know you, we've had you on the podcast before, but you were were you the first programming writer for the PowerShell team?
No, I wasn't.
Can we call you the founding writer?
Dean Schultes was before me. But he
I don't
left
remember him,
before
so he doesn't count.
Release 1.0.
He was a scripting guy.
Yeah. He was one of the originals. It was Greg Stemp and Dean who were the original scripting guys. And I was the third. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
I was there for 1.0.
Now you are doing lots of different types of activities. And we've had guys from Sapien on before. It's probably been a little while.
Yeah, it's been ages since we've talked about Sapien. We might want to give people an overview if they're newer to the show.
Yeah, makes sense. So, why don't you tell me what you guys are up to lately?
Well, let's see. So let me give you for folks who really don't know Sapien. Sapien is a really small software company. We're headquartered in beautiful downtown Napa, California. And we make development environments for IT pros and scripters. So all of the tools that are typically available only for high-end developers are customized so that they're just perfect for sysadmins and other folks, IT pros, scripting in PowerShell and other languages. The Primal Script tool, I believe, is creeping up toward 100 different supported languages.
That's been around a
PowerShell
long
Studio
time, too, right? Like 15 years?
Excuse me?
Do you know how long Primal Scripts have been around? Is it like 15 years or something like that?
I don't know. It's around that time. I don't want to guess, but
I know I was using
it's a
it
very
probably
well established
10 years
tool.
ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really well established, and it's really well developed, and it's gone through many cycles of release and feedback to refine the features so that it has what people really love. And PowerShell Studio was split off to be just the perfect customized IDE for PowerShell. And it's just a whole lot of fun to work in. All of the tools that you need are immediately available to you in the little UI. You know, when you click on a variable, all of those instances of the variable are highlighted. Just little things that you can do that make it so much easier to work. The help is right there. You press F1. You know, there's a toolbox there. There are properties. The debugger has a stack trace and a watch window and all the things that, you know, if you're doing any serious PowerShell, it's like going from, you know, banging your head with a hammer to having power tools. So. Yeah, it's lots of fun. The cool thing about PowerShell Studio is that you can build GUI interfaces without all of the complexities of using WinForms. So it hides, 80% of the difficulties of using WinForms. It adds the code for you, and it manages it for you. It basically automates PowerShell. So the newest feature, among the newest features, as my favorite, I can't take any credit for this one, is right-click insert function. And there's a corresponding feature. It's right-click edit function. And basically, it opens a UI, and you type in all the things that you need. You're going to need a parameter. It has this parameter attributes. You need an attribute of a parameter of the command binding attribute. You need 2 parameter sets. They have these parameters. You can even type some help in there, right? And it generates the function for you with all of the correct syntax. So you don't have to worry about square braces and parentheses and curly braces, and you know, it's kind of the next level. Like PowerShell automated the Windows UI, and PowerShell Studio automates PowerShell. So, kind of fun.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and our latest product is PowerShell Help Writer. And
I didn't know about
that's a product that, yeah, it's brand new. We released it about a week ago. This is V1.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, you can imagine that I have, you know, a little heart invested in this one. And basically what it does is it's this gorgeous design studio for authoring PowerShell help. It generates PS MAML compliant XML files. Again, you don't have to mess with the XML like you're done with Notepad. You're done with trying to, there's a button to validate the PS MAML file. You can edit in the designer. You can edit in XML. You know, you click, and you don't even need to do any of that, actually, because all you do is you type new help file for module, you point it at a module, and it generates starter help files that match the code.
Oh, that's
and they
nice.
can include any help that you've already written, including comment-based help. So it converts comment-based help to XML. Yeah, very cool.
That is pretty cool. I'll bet nobody appreciates that as much as you do.
Well, I think
like,
that there
let
are.
me tell you, I know what the alternatives are.
Yeah, but I bet there are a whole bunch of folks who like tried to take an existing, played with, commandlet help editor online, or tried to take an existing XML file and type in it in Notepad without screwing it up. Mm-hmm. And struggled with formatting examples or, just paragraph breaks. PS MAML is not the easiest thing to work with. So, yeah, this is a little bit of a dream for me, yeah.
Well, now you don't have to work with PS MAML.
And this is V1. This is still V1. So, there's more coming.
Oh, neat. So, Was that your idea? I mean, was that kind of like the project that you had wanted to have exist for a while?
Yes, but they might have. I think that I had mentioned it to them before, long before I was an employee. I mean, I think I talked to everybody about it. Whenever anyone asked if I thought that there was an opportunity available in in PowerShell support, that was the thing that I mentioned. So yeah, let's just say that I mentioned it in my interview. Yeah.
yeah, I can see that. I mean, we knew that about you. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, cool. That's neat yeah. That y'all got that out. So
yeah.
What have you been working on lately?
Trial, 45-day free trial, so you can go out and try it.
And we'll put links in the show notes for everybody to check that out.
Yeah, very cool.
I was going to ask you. I'm trying to remember what we talked about in email, and it's not coming to me. I should probably pull that up. But I wanted to ask you what you've been working on as far as new PowerShell stuff, and things in version 5. Just kind of impressions and anything that you want to riff on lately.
I know you've been writing a lot over at Sapien about some cool stuff.
Yeah, it's been fun. So I get to write the blog. I'm one of the people who gets to write the blog. The blog here is a really, it's kind of a community project, which is great. Everybody writes. So Lene, who's our amazing sales specialist, she writes on the blog, and David, you guys know David Crowley's?
Yes.
He's our dev. And David writes the blog, and Alex writes on the blog, and I write on the blog. So you get everybody. It's like a family. You get everybody from Sapien.
Is Alex still the main... Is Alex still the guy who does PrimalScript, and David is the main person who does PowerShell Studio?
Yeah, although they collaborate.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and now they have me, needling both of them, poor guys. Run into their offices and close the door and hide.
So, why don't you pick some blog posts to kind of pull apart, and we can kind of dig into some nitty-gritty.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of what I've been doing is sort of like everything I've always wanted to talk about, right? So I've gone back to some, just some PowerShell stuff that I needed to talk about. When I was just first learning PowerShell Studio, I went through things that I found hard to find and surprising and delighting. So I had trouble finding the options to change the console font. There was a blog post about that. Really beginner stuff. And then as I began to learn how to develop a GUI that has PowerShell code in the back. So it's a GUI, basically a UI that runs PowerShell in the back.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote a blog post about all the things that I needed to learn kind of from scratch in moving from, linear PowerShell to event-driven PowerShell in a UI. So, registering event handlers and handling output. So if you're writing a GUI app and you don't direct your output somewhere, it goes in the bit bucket. It doesn't appear in the UI by default. You have to assign it to a property of one of your UI elements. So I wrote a blog post about handling output, and then the inevitable one that comes next is a blog post about handling errors, right? And doing it right, doing it in a really professional way. And then I did a blog post about handling CSV files and CSV data in a UI and how to build a data grid. So those are fun. Let's see, on the PowerShell side, I've had a ton of fun with classes in the V5 preview.
I don't think we've had a lot of talk about classes. I know that it came up, and we did talk about it some probably when Jeffrey was on the podcast, I would think. So that would have been in November or something like that when he was on. But I don't think we've had any. So why don't you tell us what you think about classes and how they're going to be useful to you or others?
Yeah. So basically, the way I see it, and there's a blog post about this. I see classes as sort of the evolution of from objects to being able to create custom objects to being able to create classes. And it's just a tiny step from PS custom objects to classes. Because once you've defined an object with some properties, right, the next thing you want to do is to be able to manage that object. And you want to be able to create methods for it. You want to be able to override the methods that it has. You want to be able to create exactly the properties that you need, just like when you create a custom object from a hash table, right? But just the next step. Mm-hmm. And in order to do this really well, this is kind of an interesting thing. I'm going to take a step back. After I left the PowerShell team in 2012, right, I went to the Azure Active Directory team, and they were doing web programming, and I didn't know web programming, so I had to learn it from scratch. And so I went out to refresh my programming skills. They were very, very old. So I knew C# and almost nothing else. So I took a whole bunch of these free online classes. Coursera, Udacity, EDX, Code Academy, anything I could find. And I picked up some rudimentary Java, Python, Ruby. I played around with some functional programming languages, Racket and SML. And so I sort of learned computer science rather than just programming. If you haven't done an online class, that's an amazing resource. Life-changing, absolutely. I always said that if I had, billions of dollars, I would quit my job and go to school, right? But I was able to go to school without quitting my job. So learning about classes in other languages made the transition to classes in PowerShell very simple.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So, so why did you use so many different services in the pursuit of education? Was it because that's what which had the classes that were of interest to you, or how did you go to that half a dozen things?
Yeah, well, I started with Coursera because I listened to a TED Talk by one of the women who founded it. That's probably like 3 or 4 years ago now. It seems like a long time.
I think I heard that one, actually. And I'll find a link to it.
Yeah, it was an excellent talk. So I heard the TED Talk, and I immediately went to the website, and, it occupied me almost every non-work minute of the day for about 3 years. It's just a astonishing thing. And I worked really hard, and I got nervous about tests and finals and turning in projects and grading other people's projects. And, some of the classes had 20,000 people, some had more. And
That's
the reason
crazy.
that it was awesome. And people ranged in age from 7 to 90 or something. And they were all over the world. So when you went to grade someone's project, or they were grading yours, right, you were working with people, of every age and ethnicity and background and geographic location. And we were all in it together, out on the forums trying to figure out how to do something, all in it together. So the reason that I went from one platform to another was that I was looking for as much sort of programming content on a level that I could consume as I could manage. So I just went wherever the classes were.
So which one had
Coursera was my favorite. Huh?
Coursera was your favorite? That's what I was about to ask, which one you liked the best. I went through a Udacity course, and that was really cool. One of their early ones.
Which one was that?
It was like the computer science one that they did. I think it was Ruby, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Was the language that they were using. No, I'm sorry, it was Python. It was Python.
Was it Python?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just amazing. So I just went from one class to another, like gobbling them up, right? So I did a couple of semesters so the way Coursera differs from the others is that they have university professors, and it's not like a taped class, right? The class is designed for online consumption. Right. So they give a little bit of a lecture. You're interrupted by a tiny quiz. They do a little more lecture, another quiz. So it's very hands-on. And then, they give you weekly homework and a project, and they're very challenging. These are not easy. And the professors are real professors, and you can tell. At that time, I learned as much about teaching and learning, that sort of pedagogical process, as I learned about the topic, right? I'd never seen such effective teachers. And it changed the way I teach completely, upside down.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Kind of interesting
yeah. Yeah, I don't talk for a long time and then if people do a lab, right, I do exactly what they do. I talk and try, concept, test, just like they did.
So I remember, this was probably many, many years ago, Sapien had a set of curricula, I think probably Don Jones wrote it at the time, that they used when delivering courses. Has that, it's probably changed a lot over the years, and are you contributing to the curricula as well?
Yeah, I am, although I pretty much design my own, just because I put things in the order that I feel comfortable explaining them. Like when I teach objects way up front because I never, ever want anyone to be intimidated by objects. So it's like the third thing I talk about after, introducing the concept of a commandlet in a module. I get people right into looking at the MSDN documentation, being comfortable with how to look things up and which parts to ignore, right? MSDN documentation is designed for, C# developers, .NET developers, right? So there's a whole bunch to ignore and a whole bunch to attend to, and I get right into that. But
that's actually a really valuable lesson. I can appreciate that.
I have to tell people all the time that I'm not Don Jones. I really not.
Well, you look a lot like Don.
Oh, that's about the nicest thing you say. It's probably all of my tattoos. Yeah.
We've been doing some interviews lately, and when we talk about PowerShell and we ask questions, and depending on what level the person is at, it may be questions about how does PowerShell handle strings? What's different between a single quote and double quote? And it's amazing how many people got flummoxed when I asked them about the get member commandlet.
Right. Well, it's got a weird name.
Yeah, there was one person that was like, is that, thought it was like for pulling group membership or something. And
that makes sense.
I mean, it's such a fundamental commandlet. It's hard for me to imagine not knowing it. How can you survive in PowerShell?
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine, what does that person do if they didn't know get member, but they knew some PowerShell, right? I mean, they obviously could talk to it a little bit, but if you don't know get member, you're like, you don't know what an object is. You don't know how to learn about the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. They might survive with a format list -property all and get the properties that way.
I use that a lot.
Right.
FL space star is my favorite thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've I've done that before.
Yeah, so because then you not only get to see the properties, but you get sort of an example
of
what the property value looks like. Yeah.
Yep.
And I often go from the property value to the property. Oh, that's the one I want.
Yep.
But when I teach, I teach discovery. Like, how do I handle something when I don't know what it is at all? How do I figure out what's inside this, right? Because I could never teach them every module and every commandlet.
Then it would be a waste.
So I think, but I couldn't anticipate what they'd need, right? So what I do is I teach them how to figure it out for themselves. That's kind of the goal. So just, you get a module, it's a big package, you take it apart and find the commands, you take the commands apart, you look at the parameters, and you look at the input and output objects, and you go and look them up, and, the party begins. Yeah. But I think that there's a lot of concepts that even people who are really, pretty good at PowerShell, missed. Right? So it's fun to fill those in too.
So there was a topic that you had mentioned in your email, and it was Azure Resource Manager. So why don't you tell us what that is? I don't recall if we talked about that much on the show at all. I don't remember which component that is, and there's so many parts of Azure.
You guys want to say hi to Ferdinand?
Hi, Ferdinand.
Well, of course.
He just walked in.
Hi, Ferdinand.
Yeah, can you see?
Yes, I can.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So I'm in his office. Hi, Tony. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Sorry. It's just a big family here. It's kind of fun. That's a really interesting topic on two levels. So first I'm going to tell you a little bit about Resource Manager, and then I'm going to tell you what it took to get it, because that's interesting too. So basically, the way Azure started out, the model was that you would create individual components, individual elements. You create a VM, you create a server, you create a network, you create a website, you create, onesies, right? Create one of these and one of these and one of these and one of these. And then you get them all up there in your cloud configuration, and you can manage them. And, it's an amazing thing. It was a big step from having, all these physical components to being able to have them in the cloud, to have, management handled by the platform, the PAS and IAS. And so Azure started out as a system where you create things sort of iteratively, and then you've got them all up there and you manage them. And what they found is that it's really difficult to manage as a unit things that you've created individually, right? But they put a whole lot of work into that platform, into that, Azure Service Management model. But they found that it was, for one thing, very difficult to remove and redeploy things as a unit, because they were all created individually and the elements didn't have any relationship to each other. Now, at that point, they could have sort of patched it, right, and tried to work around it and told people just to, coordinate it really well. But they didn't. What they did is they sort of said, wait, we have come to what is effectively a bottleneck here, a problem that we need to solve. And what we need to do is invest in a parallel track and almost start again. So Azure Resource Manager turns the whole model upside down. So what it says is, I'm going to envision what I'd like to create up in the cloud. So instead of, I'm going to get one VM and one database and one website, I say, I want a photo gallery, right? So you start with your goal, right? Kind of like DSC. See where this is going, right? But you start with your goal, and you say, I want a website, a database-backed website, or I want a photo gallery, or I want a wiki, or I want a BizTalk server enterprise environment, right? So you start with your goal, and then you get a template, right? And the template says, okay, it's like a recipe, So you want, a photo gallery, you're going to need a website, you're going to need a database, you're going to need a database server, you're going to need, these components, plus you're going to need a couple of, these really smart business rules that you might not have thought of, right? And so here's my template, and then all I have to do is provide data for the placeholders in the template, the name of my web server, the name of my database, the name of my, whatever I have in there, its location, and a couple of little sort of customizable things, and then you take it's called a resource group, right? That's the template is a template for a resource group. So you fill in all the placeholders and you deploy the entire resource group that you've now created as a unit. So everything is created together. It's managed as a unit, and you can, unpublish and republish and update and do everything as a unit. So you get a bunch of different things. So first of all, you get the beauty of that single unit management for a very large project. But the other thing that you get is you have these fabulous templates that are guidelines from experts on how to create one of these, complex end products. And the template, there's this enormous template gallery, and of course there's a PowerShell commandlet to get to the template gallery and look at all of the templates. But basically, the templates in there are created by people way outside of Microsoft. In fact, my guess is that Microsoft's share of those templates is diminishing over time as the template gallery grows. So there are just a lot of other vendors in there that say, hey, you can deploy an Ubuntu server. So that's Azure Resource Management.
So how do you create the templates and put them in the gallery? Is that something that they expose for everyone?
Yeah, they do. I think they're beginning to do it. Right around the time that I left, they were documenting the language that's used to create the templates, and I believe that should be published by now. Yeah, but there are literally thousands. Before I sat down to create a template, Hal, go look get Azure Resource Manager Gallery Template is the name of the commandlet. The names are long, and you get you must get back 20,000 of these. You have to filter them and go through and you look at the templates, and there's. Yeah, it's very cool. XML and JSON.
I've got lots of links lined up for the show notes while you've been talking. Okay. There's Azure Resource Manager 2.5 for Visual Studio. I'm not sure if this is the same thing that you start with.
Well, I did at the time that I left. It wasn't ready for Visual Studio yet, so I was working in PowerShell. And there's both a PowerShell interface and a cross-platform CLI interface for the Azure Resource Manager commandlets. But if you Google, I think Bing. I'm out of practice here, right? Yeah. If you use your favorite search engine to look for, DuckDuckGo, right? Azure Resource Manager commandlets. That was my final project at Microsoft, and there's also a little tutorial that I wrote, and it's called something like, using Windows PowerShell to manage Azure Resource Manager. And I'll give you links to them
as well.
Yeah, it's very cool. But what amazed me was how agile the Azure team had become. So what this meant for them was that they had started along this service management road, and when they realized that they'd hit a roadblock, instead of patching and making excuses, they turned around and created an entirely different approach. And the approach is run in parallel. The modules are supposed to be, there's a Azure Service Management module and an Azure Resource Manager module, and they're supposed to be mutually exclusive. Right, so when you load installer to update your Azure module, and you actually get two of them. You get both Service Management and Resource Manager, and the way it starts is you get Service Management, the traditional one by default, and
so is Service Management version 1 of the Management API for Azure?
No, it's the current version. It was the latest Service Management version, right? So, I don't know how it coordinates with the API. But anyway, so you get the Azure Service Management module, which is just called Azure, right? And in order to get to the Azure Resource Manager module, you use a commandlet called switch Azure mode. It's very odd.
Yeah, I remember that one. We had somebody. Who were we talking to about that, Jonathan? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember.
I remember it coming up on the podcast, but it's been a little while.
Yeah, so what that does, what Switch Azure Mode does, it actually goes and the only thing it does, in fact, it doesn't touch like import module or anything like that. It actually uses auto-loading. So what it does is it goes to your PS module path and it pulls out the path to the service management module and edits that, your PS module path environment variable, and it puts in the path to the Azure Resource Manager module. So the next time you go to type, get module or get command, you've got Azure Resource Manager instead of Azure Service Management.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a deck for that. If I do that for user groups. I talk about Azure Resource Manager.
I started to get a little more into Azure lately. There were a couple of people I'm kind of like one of the Microsoft specialists at my company, but I'm not directly involved with doing a whole lot of stuff on Windows. It's more around what our software does. But since I know a lot of stuff, my background, I will chip in whenever somebody's got a question. And just in the past couple of weeks, 2 or 3 different people had asked about doing things in Azure. So I was just starting to look into that a little bit more. So, it's a really interesting platform. There's a whole lot of services. It's just fascinating.
Yeah, and Azure AD is kind of amazing. And now you can do, there used to be 2 ways to authenticate to Azure in PowerShell. There was the AAD module, which used tokens, and the traditional published settings file, which used certificates. And, people preferred the token method, Azure Active Directory token method. But the reason that you couldn't use it is that it popped up a dialog box, right? So it disrupted an unattended configuration. But just about the time I left, they added a feature that it's already docked. I docked it before I left. That lets you use add Azure account as the commandlet without popping up a dialog box that would interrupt the script. So cool.
Very
stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. And so one of the last things that I did was try to improve the core Azure PowerShell help, which needed some help. Yeah.
So let's see. Tell us where you were going to be. You started. I forget if we had this on when we started or not. But where are you going to be next, June?
Where am I going to be?
Yeah, you mentioned PowerShell Summit.
Oh, yeah. All those places I couldn't go before because they don't send writers. So I'll be talking at the PowerShell Summit, which is very exciting. Nice. And yeah, I won't eat or sleep for days. You know me. But I'm actually going to do a really different kind of session there. You know how everybody goes there and they show off their latest module and look how I can code. They do very cool things with all the new features, like things that you didn't even anticipate, and they show you all these cool technical things, right? Well, I was going to do that, and I decided that all the things that I was going to do a session on, an absolute deep dive on writing help. Right. But I realized that everything that I was going to talk about, how to put together updatable help, how to put together online help, how to name files correctly so GetHelp can find them, how to put them places, how to deal with, help in multiple languages, right? That all those things are docked, and almost anybody could put together a session like that. So I'm actually going to do kind of a soft session, a lab on teaching people how to write help. So kind of a risk there.
That sounds like it could be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll do the other stuff as well, but I think it's time to look at content and, to get away from parameter descriptions like, the name parameter tells the name,
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, is there a question we need to ask June?
Well, first of all, I wanted to know, I was looking at the blog, and there was a new version of PowerShell Studio that came out very recently. Can you talk about some of the new things that are available now in PowerShell Studio?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So we just released the 2015 versions of everything, and the newest version of PowerShell Studio, the 2015 version, has just a whole bunch of fixes that people really wanted. So it has, we've improved the primal sense down, multiple levels. So even, it works if things are in a double quoted string. If you've got an object or a variable in a double quoted string and you need to know the properties of that variable, the primal sense. Primal sense is like IntelliSense in ISE for folks who don't know. And it just gets better and better so that it can figure out and suggest to you more and more things. But the coolest thing, so that's one of the new things in PowerShell Studio. So there are a lot of kind of small upgrades like that, but the biggest ones came just before the last versions of the 2014 products with things like the function builder and the function editor, which are just mind-blowing. Amazing. You right-click a function, you click Edit Function, you add a parameter set, and you know what it's like trying to figure out, where to put the, the attributes for the, default parameters. Is it default parameter set or default parameter set name? All those kinds of things. And it does it. You fill it out in the little UI, and it adds all the syntax for you. You're done memorizing syntax. Yeah, it makes everything so much easier, and it's always done right. So those were sort of the end of 2014 and the great big changes. Very
cool.
Yeah.
So is there support for PowerShell DSC, like writing configurations?
There's not detailed support for it. That's being discussed.
Okay.
But yeah, you'll probably see that coming. Right now, of course, anything that you need to do, you can do, but there's no sort of, extra support. But one of the, sort of awesome things that PowerShell Studio has, and it's one of my favorite things, is that the snippets are very different than snippets that you're accustomed to in other tools. Your snippets have placeholders. The placeholders have names. They have help. They have links. And you can easily share them. They're little files, and you can share them. So you can create a snippet for anything. So I've been creating snippets for classes and for enums in classes, enumerated types in classes. And when somebody, types, class, or this, whole snippet gets added, and the placeholders have help.
That's cool.
So, yeah, it's awesome. They're fun to create. Anyone can create them. You can share them. Really useful. So that's a great way to bring in things that you repeatedly do in DSC.
We had a question in the chat room. They wanted to know if PowerShell Studio is strictly for PowerShell or if it does highlighting for other languages. I know that PrimalScript is the big multi-language product.
Yeah. PowerShell Studio is PowerShell. You can, do XML and stuff in there, but if you want to do multiple languages, that's really a PrimalScript thing. And any language almost works. Yeah, I tried to find one that didn't. It was really hard. Yeah. But PowerShell Studio is sort of the ultimate PowerShell thing, and by there's always that the trade-offs, the balance between specialization and generalization, right?
Yeah.
And so Primal Script is the generalization one. It can do just about interpret any language. It can support you no matter what you're doing on what platform. But PowerShell Studio is the specific one where they went into PowerShell and said, what is everything that I need when I'm working in PowerShell? So the help is there, the commandlets are there, the modules are there, the references are all there. It's just everything that I need.
Doesn't even have like remoting configurations and stuff built into
does.
it, if I remember.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's very cool. And in order to run a command remotely, you click a button. You invoke command, blah blah blah. You just take your little command and click the button and say run this, dash computer name, and it's gone.
Hey, Jonathan, you need to switch the audio.
Okay. Hal?
Yep.
Is that fixed?
That's better,
I think so.
thanks, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys, in the chat room.
Sorry. Hi.
That's okay. Not your fault.
Okay.
It's
are my fault.
Huh. That's bizarre. Normally I can hear that problem when it happens, but I did not hear it this time, which means it's not in the recording, which is good. But
that's good.
But it's weird that you heard it and the stream heard it, but I didn't.
Yeah, I heard it.
Huh. Okay. Bizarre.
Well, hopefully it won't show up in the recording then. Anyway, I think we were kind of at a stopping point right there.
Okay. Well, I do have a question for you. June Blender, what was your first computer?
Oh, gosh, that's great. So my very first work computer was, it was a dedicated mail merge processor in a congressional office. So it was brought in, it was this monster thing, and it was brought into each congressional office to help them answer constituent mail. And basically what it did is you created a sort of list of constituents' names and addresses and the thing that they were interested in, and there was a code for each response, and then you typed in all the letters, right, that you wanted to send, and it would match the code. Each letter had a code, and it would match the code with the address and put them together and print them and send them out. And everybody was afraid to touch the thing. And I was about 19 years old, and I wasn't afraid of anything. There was just whatever. So I learned to run that thing, and I taught everybody in our office and everybody in our hallway and everybody up and down the hallway. And it wasn't a computer, but that was kind of the first. I had an Epson. I remember a luggable on a cart.
Luggable.
Right? Yeah, on a cart. But my very first personal computer was a Baby Mac, and it was $1,000, and I bought it through the University of Pennsylvania. And it was this beautiful little Baby Mac. It had no hard drive, right? Floppy disk switch. In and out, hard disks, yeah, and in and out, and it came with a printer, and it was $1,000 because I remember saving for it, and it changed my life. I mean, I was writing research papers, I was editing other people's research papers, I was writing grants. At the time, I was doing a lot of this congressional stuff, and the ability to create a document and cut and paste and move things around was just, yeah.
Well, that thing was cute looking. How odd.
Yeah.
I
So I wasn't really. Yeah, I wasn't really programming. Yeah, I wasn't programming. I was kind of fiddling. So, yeah. Yeah, my first real programming language was COBOL. But that wasn't until much later.
I don't think we need to talk about COBOL. That sounds painful.
Yeah, for me it was Fortran.
Yeah, everybody's got that first. I did. I also had, God, what was that thing called? Modula 2 and Ada, like way back. But
I've heard of these things.
Yeah, I think we discussed this on another podcast. But the reason that I learned to program was that AT&T was under court order to promote women in technology. And this is, 80.
Oh, that's right.
89. Right. So, yeah, they gave us all an aptitude test, and it was a logic test. I could do that. So.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I still love it. The other day I had to, tell David that I was not going to look any for, we had a script, it had a bug. I found the bug, and I forbid myself to look at that script anymore because I had other things to do, and I knew that once I got into that script, that days could go by.
Oh, yeah.
You look at somebody's code.
Some people need to look at code more often. You can answer questions yourself without having to really... you don't have to understand the whole program in order to answer questions about something that's in it. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't hurt to take a look.
Actually, I disagree. No. So, yeah. I'm one of those people who absolutely needs to look at every line to feel that I can answer a question. Right?
Okay. Well,
everybody's different, but I tend to be a little on the anal retentive side. So yeah, I absolutely
scrolling up and down and jumping to different files, and it's like a process, right?
Yeah. Well, just so it's code, I know it's accessible to me, right? I was at a She's Geeky conference. Was it the previous weekend? That's a fabulous thing. It was just amazing, and we were talking about how you approach a very large code base that's new to you. Mm-hmm. And, some people get really nervous when they're faced with a great, a large amount of code. But for me, as soon as I know it's code, I relax, right? Because I know I can go line by line if I need to. It's all accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
That's good perspective.
Yeah, but it's not always efficient, so I have to, go do something else. They're waiting for something, right? You've got a blog post due. Yeah.
Yes, I understand that. Well, June, thanks a lot for coming back and catching us up on everything that Sapien's up to and that you've been up to. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been, old ladies are still employable, right?
Who are you talking about?
I don't know any old ladies.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had folks when I was looking for a job, and I said, there were a whole bunch of these jobs where you could, dock APIs until you die, sitting in office, Somebody told me they had a 20,000 API backlog. Oh boy, that sounds exciting. Whoa!
Yeah.
And I thought, what do I want to do? That is not, I don't want to, die in an office documenting, reference pages, right? I want to do something different. And people said, oh, no, you won't be able to do that. You're way too old. But it's at some point I'll kind of relax and slow down, and I won't have this much energy. But, Then I saw Annie Lennox the other night, and I realized I have quite a ways to go. She's older than me.
Yeah, I for one was really excited to learn that you had joined Sapien, because to me that's just that's the perfect match.
I was just, I wanted a PowerShell job. I really did, and I wanted two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very grateful to be here. I never take it for granted. And it's great to be in the PowerShell community. So thank you guys too. Thanks everybody.
Our pleasure to have you.
Thanks. So I'm on the blog at Sapien, and I'm all over. I'm on Stack Overflow and PowerShell.org and the Scripting Forum and Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus and LinkedIn. So come find me, ask me questions.
Your Twitter is
awesome.
JuneB Get Help or something like that?
It is, yeah. It's JuneB_Get_Help.
Okay.
So, yeah, my sons say that proves that I really don't know anything about Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, I my son tonight, actually, my 13-year-old had accidentally added me to a Skype conversation with some of his friends, like a half dozen of them. And none of them knew it. And he didn't do it on purpose. And then after this, my phone is just like going ding, 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 buzz, 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 and like 20 messages flown by. And I looked at it, so I had to type something. So I said, oh please, not this again. Somebody save me. And then it was like the chat stopped, and then all of them were like, "Is that Chandler's dad?" And we're all embarrassed. It was hilarious.
Yeah. Well, my kids are all grown up. They're 27, 25, and 23.
Wow.
So, yeah, is that amazing? And they all code. Bless their hearts.
Wow.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they all do. There was the summer where I made everybody learn PowerShell.
Oh, really?
I did. We had copies of Don Jones's Month of Lunches book, and I didn't want them lying around the house, right? And it was the end of the summer, and everyone's summer job had wrapped up. They were ready to go back to school. They had about 6 weeks. We were in Utah, and it was like, you are not going to lie around the house. You're going to learn PowerShell.
Nice.
They did, and it was really useful.
Productive.
It was, my oldest son is a biochemist. He's a PhD candidate in chemistry at Caltech. And he went from PowerShell to data really big data management in Python like that because he knew PowerShell.
Neat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like a gateway drug. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Then I guess we're done, June.
Okay.
It was nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Now we're in the post show. It just happened.
Okay, so the recording's off.
I'm still.
It's still going.
Recording.
You're still recording.
It won't end up.
Okay.
It may.
I can't say dirty words yet, right?
If you must.
Okay, go ahead and stop.
Yeah, I'm good. Boy, I was setting up PowerShell web access on one of our machines. I said lots of dirty words.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, man. Oh, gosh. When you look at the troubleshooting file, it has 800 links. And it's like, oh.
That I've never actually tried to set it up.
I haven't either.
Get a glass of wine. That's the great thing about being in Napa, right?
Oh, yeah. It would be.
Yeah, so I got it all set up, and it didn't work, and I tore the whole thing down and set it all up, and it appeared to work, but no one can log in. And it's like, So.
Well, don't you know somebody? Can't you call somebody, get them on the phone?
I'm not at that stage yet. I'm still busy banging my head against the wall. I do that for a while, I bang my head against the wall, because that's how you learn, right?
Yes,
you pound at different little. Yeah, you pound at different little pieces, and I think it has something to do with the port that I'm using. So I'm gonna, before I bother somebody, I'm gonna mess with the port.
Ed Horley says hi from the chat room, by the way.
Hey! I saw. Oh man, that was the best. Last night I drove 2 hours to Campbell, California, from Napa, and 2 hours each way. Right?
Wow.
To be at a user group meeting, because I never get to go in person, right? So this is my chance. And Steve Evans, the PowerShell MVP, was talking about how to deal with sort of a PowerShell at a enterprise development level. So this is a really professional PowerShell environment where all of their all of their code is PowerShell. And, all of a sudden, instead of just, commandlets or modules or functions, whatever, they need naming conventions and coding conventions, right? Syntax conventions and source control and testing, error name and error handling management. And it was absolutely the best, most illuminating user group discussion I've ever had. Fantastic. If you can get Steve.
Awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. I was completely blown away. And everybody who was in there was, contributing like amazing questions. This is a Northern California PowerShell user group.
Mm-hmm.
And they broadcast that user group too. So I got to be there. It was whoa, just mind blowing. I couldn't stop thinking about, they're using things that we set up for script internationalization. They're using that for their error resource files. That's just a brilliant way to do that. So, convert from string data, right, and a here string.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, amazing. Just fantastic stuff.
I like user groups a lot.
Yeah, I'm always on that. Like, whenever I go and I'm in person, I'm always talking, right? Either I'm remote and listening in, right? But if I'm there in person, it's almost always because I'm talking. And this was just a fabulous opportunity to be there in person and get to benefit from someone else's just vast experience that was entirely different from mine. Ed will tell you that, ask him. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Someone is saying in the chat room, I wish there was a Vegas PowerShell user group.
Oh,
that's kind of funny that there is.
I'll help. Yeah, me too. So Vegas and Salt Lake would be the two cities closest to me. So who is it that wants a Vegas user group? Who is that?
Malachi is, but we can have him get in touch with you if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll totally help. I'm about 5 hours from Las Vegas, and for me, that's close. So, yeah, absolutely. If there were a Las Vegas user group, I would drive. Yeah, no question about it.
So how should he get in touch with you?
JuneB@Sapien.com.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, thank you so much. You could do Twitter or Facebook or whatever also, but yeah, I'm absolutely on that one. There's a She's Geeky group here in San Francisco, and I went there and met a woman from Salt Lake. So we're putting together a She's Geeky for Salt Lake, which is the other big city that I'm near. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the chatter in the user group or in the chat room, we're saying that the Vegas PowerShell user group is called Don Jones' House.
Oh, and and I can go now. So when I was at Microsoft, I couldn't go to Don's house. I couldn't stay there or anything because it exceeded the value of gifts that I was allowed to receive.
Oh, man.
I know. So there was a time when I wanted to go and sit in on he invited me, bless his heart, to go and, nice young man, he invited me to sit in on one of his classes, and participate. And I think it was one of these like boot camp things that he does, right? And I was so jazzed. I was so excited. What an amazing opportunity. And the management, and you stay at his house, right? I was going to be able to stay at his house. And, the management could not let me go because it exceeded the $400 at the time value of what I could accept as a gift, right? And now it's like, no more
That's
bureaucracy. Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, so I'm really excited. I hope I get to do that again.
Yeah, I don't think Don Jones spends a lot of time at his house, though, based on...
Yeah.
I know they do travel a lot.
Yeah. Well, I'll just go and hug Chris. He's like the best guy. So.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah,
but you should go check the house out.
Me too.
It's an amazing
I've seen pictures. Yeah. Well, you haven't seen mine, right?
That's
I have
true.
not.
Yeah. Well, that's a mistake, right?
I was I flew into your state one time. That's about the closest I've gotten. I'm sorry.
I'm disappointed, Hal. You got all the kids, and I live in like the mecca of like great things to do with kids.
What is there to do
hiking,
there? Because
oh my
we were
gosh!
looking
Okay,
into
so
it.
you go out. Yeah, you go. Well, first of all, there are 5 national parks. They're all really close to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we live kind of between Bryce and Zion. And Capitol Reef National Park, and there's Moab on the other side, so Arches and Canyonlands. And where I live, it's the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument, and it's 1.9 million acres of gorgeous, open, magnificent, exposed rock in empty space. So, 1.9 million acres and about 12 people.
So does it look like the surface of the moon?
It looks like, so folks from JPL at NASA, right, at Caltech, came down to look at our canyons because they look like the canyons on the moons of Jupiter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, is that cool? So I think it looks like Mars because it's red.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Having never been to Mars, it might look like the moon too. It's absolutely, the colors are really vibrant. The rock is really gorgeous, and we have a Cretaceous layer, so they're pulling dinosaurs out of there all the time. They just pulled out another huge skull of a brand new dinosaur, indigenous or known only to that place so far.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
So there are a ton of things to do. So there's hiking and bicycling and ATVs and horseback riding and canyoneering and rock climbing, and there's a little bit of water. There's Lake Powell, so there's kayaking and all that kind of stuff. But I think the thing that really distinguishes it from almost every other place in the world where we're running out of places like this are that I can, pull my car over and walk 20 feet, and I have a canyon all to myself for as long as I want it.
Wow.
And it's just me, and it's an alone space, and it's beautiful, and there really just aren't many empty spaces just to be by yourself in such a fabulous environment. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll have to make it there sometime. It does sound pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Alrighty, I'm running about out of energy. June, you sound like you could go on for another few hours at least, but then you're a few hours ahead of us.
I'm trying to get old. I'm totally trying to get old. People use like passionate, which means like she's too into this.
That is important. I mean, in our jobs, because I've got a similar kind of role for my company. It's you have to show that passion in what you do. I
don't have any trouble. Yeah, I don't have any trouble. And I'm learning to like build these UIs, and I'm stuck on a chart. Like I'm trying to take data, and I've got data in a data grid view, and I want to reflect the same data in a stacked bar chart. So that's what I'll be doing tonight.
Well, good luck with that.
Totally. Thank you. Thanks.
Hey, Hal.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember Dean Miller from the...
Yeah.
He is about to start as a contractor on my team.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Was he a contractor before at Home Depot?
I don't think so.
I might be thinking of somebody else.
No, he's been to, or he was at some of the earlier PowerShell user group meetings.
Yeah, I do remember. I distinctly remember his face. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Is he going to be doing PowerShell, John?
Oh yeah, everybody
does PowerShell.
Everybody on the team knows PowerShell.
It's a little world. Yeah, I'm going to come and visit. I want to see what's going on. After hearing about Steve's organization, now I want to go see what people are doing on different scales. So
I'm using DSC inside an SCCM task sequence to build servers.
Are you using Orchestrator at all?
Yes, we are using Orchestrator.
Yeah, so that's
not for that process. I'm literally doing it within a SCCM task sequence.
Wow. Yeah.
And at some point in the future, we're going to also integrate it into Orchestrator so we can, set servers out in the field. Okay, go report into this poll server and that sort of thing. So,
I look at DSC and I wonder. It looks to me like sort of the evolution of PowerShell, right?
Yeah.
Is going to become just all DSC. Not all, right?
It depends. It completely depends on what you're doing. If all you're doing, if you're configuring your environment, yes. If you're pulling data on your environment, no.
Right. Yeah. And then it's going to be classes. So everybody's got to. I'm going to do a couple more posts on classes, right? So I forgot who it was. Trevor Sullivan did a beer class. So being here in Napa, what did I do? I did a wine class. Yeah.
That's cool.
I did a wine class, and then I created a wine glass class, right? So the wine glass, one of the properties of the wine glass is a wine object. So I have, right? See how that works?
Nice.
Yeah, and
the
so what
audio
that
is
became...
flaky again.
Oh, let me fix.
Oh, but we're done, aren't we? Basically what that did is it created... Yeah, it creates a little, when you're done, it creates a little database for your wine. So, in addition to managing your servers, you can manage your wine cave.
Okay, guys, I'm getting tired. I'm not following the conversations anymore. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right.
I'm going to go ahead and drop off.
Yep. Good night, everybody.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw in the chat room, Mike is saying that he was talking to somebody else that was doing what you were doing with the SCCM and DSC.
Oh, that's cool. No, I didn't see that.
So you might want to chat with him.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to drop off. June, really good talking to you again.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
And seeing you.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, what?